What happens when the most feared council in the galaxy underestimates the Terran Empire? They believed they could force humanity into submission with threats and ultimatums. But when the Terran Empire responded, it wasn't with fear, it was with three chilling words: we accept. Prepare. What did the Galactic Council awaken by pushing humanity too far? Dig into the story where arrogance meets its match and discover the true power of the Terran Empire. Ever seen a human beg for mercy? No, me neither. Commander Krark sneered as he addressed the assembly. The Galactic Council chamber was thick with tension, the various species gathered eyeing each other nervously. Krark's 7-foot frame dominated the center, his scaled fists clenched as he paced. Humans are weak, he continued, his voice dripping with contempt. They haven't participated in a single galactic conflict in over a millennium. They hide behind their diplomacy and their fragile alliances, too scared to stand on their own two legs. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Terran Empire had long been a subject of ridicule, their absence from the warfronts of the galaxy interpreted as cowardice. For centuries, humanity had managed to stay out of the fray, negotiating peace where others waged war, buying time with treaties and trade deals. It was a strategy that had kept their worlds intact while others burned, but it had earned them little respect. Perhaps we should issue an ultimatum, suggested Kfil, a slender amphibious being with skin the color of deep water. Force them to choose a side, either they fight with us against the Crumb, or we dismantle their precious empire piece by piece. Krark scoffed, they won't fight. They'll surrender before the first shot is fired. Humans are too civilized, too evolved to get their hands dirty. The assembly nodded, the decision all but made. A message would be sent to the Terran Empire, demanding their immediate involvement in the galactic conflict against the Crumb. It was a war that had raged for decades, consuming entire systems in its fury. The Council had grown desperate for an edge, and the Terran Empire, with its vast resources and advanced technology, was an untapped wellspring. If they refused, the Council would invade and strip them of their riches. But what the Galactic Council had failed to understand, what they could not have known, was that humanity's peace was not born from fear. It was a carefully maintained facade, a delicate balance that had kept the true nature of the Terran Empire hidden for centuries. The humans had not forgotten how to wage war, they had simply chosen not to, believing that their survival depended on it. The message was sent, broadcasted across the galaxy on every frequency in every language known to the Council. It reached Terra Prime within hours, its tone dripping with thinly veiled threats and condescension. 2 days later, the Council received a response. The message was short, almost disappointingly so, 3 simple words. We accept. Prepare. There was no additional context, no conditions, no negotiations, just a promise that the Terran Empire would join the war effort. Commander Krark stared at the message, his confidence faltering for the first time. What is this? He growled, his eyes narrowing at the screen. This isn't the response of a frightened species. Kfil shifted uneasily beside him. Perhaps they intend to offer support from a distance, providing resources but not soldiers. Krark shook his head. No. The message is clear. They are joining the war. But why so suddenly? Why so casually? The Council members exchanged nervous glances, the earlier bravado evaporating in the face of this unexpected development. Humanity's response had been far too calm, far too measured. It was not the reaction of a species reluctantly dragged into conflict, it was the response of a species that had been waiting for an excuse. What do we know about their military? Krark demanded, turning to his aides. What are we up against? One of his officers, a squat insectoid being named FR, fidgeted nervously. The Terran Empire has been notoriously secretive about its military capabilities. We have estimates based on trade records and technological exports, but estimates. Krark interrupted, his voice rising in anger. What do we have on their actual forces? Very little, sir, Kfil admitted. Their fleet is large, but it's been engaged primarily in exploration and trade protection. They haven't fought a major war in over 1,000 years. Their soldiers are rumored to be well trained, but again, we have no solid data. Their last recorded engagement was a skirmish with the Jafari, which ended in a diplomatic settlement before any real conflict could occur. Krark's frustration mounted. And what of their weapons? Their tactics? Unknown, FR replied, his mandibles clicking anxiously. The Terran Empire does not share such information, and their dealings with other species have been strictly non-military. The commander slammed his fist down on the console, the force of the blow reverberating through the chamber. Damn it, we're walking into this blind. Kfil placed a tentative hand on Krark's arm. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Send a delegation to negotiate terms, ensure that their involvement will be to our advantage. Krark shook his head. No. We've already committed to this course. If we back down now, we'll appear weak, and weakness is something we cannot afford, not with the crumb breathing down our necks. The council members reluctantly agreed, though the unease in the room was palpable. The Terran Empire's sudden willingness to engage in war had thrown them off balance, but there was no turning back now. They would meet the humans on the battlefield and secure their assistance by any means necessary. Within days, the council fleet was mobilized, the largest armada ever assembled in the galaxy's history. Hundreds of warships, from sleek frigates to hulking battleships, gathered at the rendezvous point near the edge of Terran space. The Krum were a fearsome enemy, their biotechnological weapons and relentless aggression a constant threat. The Council had expected to fight a war of attrition, but with humanity's involvement, they hoped for a swift and decisive victory. As the fleet waited for the Terran forces to arrive, tension ran high. The crews whispered rumors, speculating on what the humans might bring to the table. Some imagined fleets of sleek, advanced starships bristling with unknown weaponry. Others whispered of mysterious superweapons hidden away on Terran worlds, capable of annihilating entire planets. But as the hours passed and no sign of the Terran Empire appeared, doubt began to creep in. Where are they? Krark muttered, pacing the bridge of his flagship. They said they would be here. Perhaps they're planning to rendezvous with us further out, Phil suggested, though his tone was uncertain. Krark was about to reply when an alert flashed across the main console. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's from the Terran Empire. On screen, Krark ordered. The image that appeared was not what anyone had expected. It was not a fleet, nor a delegation of human diplomats. It was a single man, clad in a dark uniform, his expression unreadable. He stood in what appeared to be the command center of a warship, though the design was unlike any the Council had seen before. This is Admiral Marcus Reeve of the Terran Empire, the man said, his voice calm and composed. We are en route to your location. Prepare to receive us. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Krark stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. There had been no sign of hesitation, no trace of the weakness he had expected from the humans. Admiral Reeve had spoken as if he were already in command of the situation, as if the Council fleet were his to direct. Something's not right, Krark muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. They are too confident. Kfil, ever the voice of caution, nodded. We should be prepared for anything, Commander. The humans may have been hiding their true strength from us all along. Krark scowled but said nothing. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something far more dangerous than they had anticipated. As the shadow of the Terran Empire loomed ever closer, the Galactic Council began to realize that they might have made a grave mistake. The tension on the bridge of Krark's flagship was thick enough to cut with a blade as the Terran Empire fleet emerged from hyperspace. The display screens flared to life, showing ship after ship materializing in the void. But these were not the sleek, elegant designs the Council had envisioned. The Terran vessels were brutish and utilitarian, with sharp, angular lines and an intimidating presence. Each one bristled with weapons that seemed almost excessive, even by the Council's standards. By the gods, someone whispered on the bridge. Krark stared, his reptilian eyes narrowing. There was no mistaking the firepower arrayed before them. The Terran fleet was massive, far larger than anything the Council had anticipated. And yet, it wasn't just the sheer number of ships that caused a wave of unease to ripple through the assembled Council officers. It was the way they moved, with precise, synchronized efficiency like a predator stalking its prey. "Open a channel," Krark ordered, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The screen flickered, and Admiral Reeves' image reappeared. This time, the Admiral was seated in the command chair of his ship, his demeanor as calm as ever. "Commander Krark," Reeve greeted, inclining his head slightly. "I see you have assembled your forces as well." "Excellent." Krark struggled to find his voice. "Admiral Reeve, we appreciate your prompt response. Your fleet is impressive." Reeve nodded, his expression betraying nothing. "The Terran Empire does not take war lightly, Commander. We are here to ensure that the Crumb threat is neutralized swiftly and efficiently." Krark hesitated, the words of his previous boasts ringing hollow in his ears. He had expected to be the one calling the shots, dictating terms to the humans. But now, faced with the reality of the Terran fleet, it was clear that the balance of power had shifted dramatically. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Krark asked, the question tasting bitter on his tongue. Reeves' eyes gleamed with a cold, calculating light. "We will advance on the Crumb stronghold immediately. My fleet will take point, your forces will provide support. Do not engage unless I give the order." Krark bristled at the implication that his fleet was little more than a backup, but he bit back his retort. The situation had changed, and he needed to adapt, or risk losing everything. "Understood," he replied curtly. "We'll follow your lead." Reeve gave a sharp nod, and the transmission ended. Krark exhaled slowly, trying to steady his nerves. The Council fleet, once so imposing, now seemed almost insignificant in the shadow of the Terran Armada. As the combined fleets began their advance towards the Crumb stronghold, the tension only grew. The Crumb had dug themselves in deep, fortifying their positions with layers of defensive barriers and weapon emplacements. But as the Terran fleet approached, there was no hesitation, no pause to assess the situation. The Terran ships moved with ruthless precision, cutting through the Crumb defenses like a hot knife through butter. The first wave of Terran fighters screamed towards the Crumb lines, their weapons blazing. Energy beams and missile trails crisscrossed the void, painting the darkness with the fiery glow of battle. The Crumb responded in kind, unleashing their own devastating firepower. But the Terran ships were ready. They wove through the enemy's attacks with an almost unnatural grace, returning fire with deadly accuracy. Krark watched the battle unfold on the main display, his jaw clenched. The Terran forces were relentless, their tactics brutal and efficient. They showed no mercy, no hesitation, only a single-minded focus on obliterating the enemy. "They are monsters," Phil murmured, his wide eyes fixed on the screen. Krark couldn't disagree. The humans had been hiding their true nature all along, maintaining the illusion of peace and diplomacy while secretly preparing for a war that would shake the galaxy to its core. And now, that war was here. As the Crumb defenses began to crumble, the Terran fleet pressed their advantage, driving deep into enemy territory. The Council fleet followed in their wake, providing support where needed but largely relegated to the role of observers.